It's not about what happens to you. No one escapes adversity. No one lives free of discomfort, misfortune, or struggle. Not a single soul. This is the universal constant, the thread that binds every human story ever told. What separates one life from another, what distinguishes the extraordinary from the ordinary, will always be what you do with what happens to you. In other words, it's not the event, it's the response. Not the obstacle, but your ability to navigate around it. Not the wave, but how you ride it. The famous Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply when he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And this realization, this fundamental shift in perspective, comes down to a simple but profound truth. There is always a way forward, buried underneath it all, something powerful to leverage, waiting to be discovered. But getting to that value, accessing that hidden potential, requires a rewiring of our mental circuitry. It demands a fundamental change in the questions we ask ourselves. Not how could this happen to me, but rather, how can I be better tomorrow than I am today because of what happened to me? This shift transforms everything. We move from a world of scarcity and victimhood into a world of value and limitless opportunity. The difficulty doesn't diminish. Instead, it pushes us toward that value faster, expedites the process of growth. It forces us to open our eyes and finally see what was always true. The world works for us, not against us. Consider the fear of starting something new, that knot in your stomach, that voice of doubt. It doesn't have to be an endpoint or a red light stopping you in your tracks. Fear doesn't mean you're unqualified, unprepared, or ill-equipped. It simply signals that you've finally acquired the courage to step out of the safety of the only world you knew and into the turbulence of growth, onto the uncharted path towards something better. And yes, it's easy to move away from that feeling, to turn your back on the chaos and retreat to something simpler, something more predictable and contained. But what if you viewed the fear differently? What if you recognized it as the price we all must pay to pull the curtain back on the best things life has to offer? I can't keep the water from rising or the walls from caving in. That's an inevitability. Where I'm going, where any worthwhile road leads, there will always be adversity waiting. But will I use that rising water to learn to swim? Will I use those crumbling walls to climb, to adapt and scale new heights? What will I make of this? That's the question that becomes the difference. That's the question that separates those who survive from those who thrive. Stand up. Step forward. Start now. The mathematics of marginal gains. What does it mean to be a little better every single day? James Clear noted that if each day you improve by only 1%, you'll be 37 times better in a year. That's an almost unfathomable transformation. The kind of exponential growth that seems impossible until you break it down into its component parts. Here's the catch though. 1% doesn't seem like much, which sounds like good news, you might think. That should make it easier. Well, sort of. The problem is that the easier and more seemingly trivial something is to accomplish, the easier it is to dismiss as well. Jim Rohn articulated this paradox perfectly. Being successful is easy. The issue is that being unsuccessful is easy too. Saying yes to the little things you know you need to do, easy, but saying no to them, also easy. Putting your phone away to work on something of substance, pretty easy. But watching just one more TikTok, one more Instagram reel, one more YouTube video, that's easy too. Putting your trainers on and going for a run down by the ISIS or through university parks, heading to the college gym. Procedurally, it's pretty easy, not that complex. But talking yourself into going tomorrow instead, that rationalization comes just as easily. And that's essentially the defining question of your life. Which easy will you choose today? The person who transforms their body over 6 months isn't the one who found a secret diet or bought some miracle equipment on Amazon. They didn't do the necessary things here and there during fleeting moments of inspiration. No, they made better, consistent decisions, day after day after day. No to the fizzy drink. Yes to the water. No to the snooze button. Yes to the run. Not on Netflix. Yes to the gym. Both options were easy in the moments they arose. But each time only one option mattered. Only one option built the person they were becoming. When you've given yourself no other option but to succeed, when you've burned the boats behind you, the little steps required to make it happen demand zero thought or internal deliberation. They become as natural as breathing. Stand up. Step forward. Start now. 8 billion souls, one shared truth. When I was younger, I seemed to separate life into two distinct categories, me in one and everyone else in the other. And guess which of the two categories I assumed had it all figured out? In my mind, I was the one, the only one, who didn't know, the one who was winging it, stumbling my way through each and every day. All those other people, though, they not only had plans, they had the right plans. They knew the right details, the right moves, the right path forward. I didn't. And so in my head, being right, being successful, necessarily required that I look to them, follow their lead, walk in their footsteps. But then time passes. You grow older, accumulate experiences, maybe pick up a little wisdom along the way, and you realize something that changes everything. No one really knows what they're doing. There are very few objectively correct roads that must be traveled. Life is not paint by numbers with clearly marked lines and designated colors. It's a blank canvas, and you're holding the brush. Understanding this truth liberated me entirely. I realized I had felt small at times only because of the gravity I attributed to people who were just trying to figure it out themselves. And the point here, certainly not to diminish anyone else's journey or struggle, was to give myself permission to embark upon my own. 8 billion souls on this planet. One shared truth. We're all just figuring it out. The question is not, what is the right thing to do here? The question is, when will you allow yourself to venture out into the world and discover what the right thing means for you? That's what's required. That's the work. And the world will be better for you having found it. Because no one sees life like you do. No one has your unique background, your particular worldview, your specific combination of experiences. The universe has conspired, through an almost impossible series of events, to put you exactly as you are. Here, now. How easy that is to forget. 8 billion souls. One shared truth. We're all just figuring it out, and that's not a weakness. That's the adventure. The work nobody sees. There's something profound about stepping out of the limelight to work on yourself, to, as they say, disappear for a particular period of time. To create space where, with laser-like focus, you're able to build and develop the skills that will make you exceptional at what you want to do. In a fundamental sense, we're not created out in the world as much as we're created by what we do behind the scenes. Those thousands of hours spent dedicating ourselves to a craft, honing our abilities when no one's watching, refining our skills in solitude, that's where greatness is forged. We enhance our value and capability by doing the unglamorous things day in and day out. The results we eventually produce out in the world, they're merely a reflection of that hidden work. Think about walking through the Radcliffe camera late at night when the tourists have gone and the libraries are closing, or early morning runs along the Cherwell when the mist is still rising off the water, when Oxford is silent and belongs only to you. Those solitary moments, those private battles with yourself, that's where transformation happens. Not in the Instagram story, not in the formal hall photo, in the quiet work nobody sees. That's what makes excelling in any given area so challenging. There's something counterintuitive about performing to an audience of one, dancing to no applause, exhausting time and energy so that you can cling to a promise, hold fast to a vision that only you can see. Don't be scared to disappear and come back better equipped. Don't be hesitant to go work on yourself, to invest in becoming who you're meant to be. If you're talking about substantive impact, true value, lasting excellence, it's always the people willing to put in the hours, to do the things that most people are not willing to do. Stand up, step forward, start now. The airplane aisle moments. I was recently on a flight to Heathrow. The plane lands, we're taxiing to the gate, and eventually we arrive. The plane stops, the fasten seatbelt light goes off. And as I'm sure you know, as everyone's seen this, a large number of people immediately jump up and stand in the aisle, where they proceed to stand for about 15 minutes. I've always gotten a kick out of this phenomenon. You watch people just standing there, kind of annoyed, cramped, reaching over each other to grab their carry-on luggage. It's amusing, certainly not a life or death situation, but it is a lost 15 minutes that could have been spent reading, listening to music, or simply relaxing. It's a prompt decision made without much thought, and not much value is provided in return. Which raises an important question. What are the airplane aisle moments in my life? When am I acting just to act without thinking about it? My impulse is to check my phone first thing in the morning, but that's probably not what's best for me. Which raises an important question. What are the airplane aisle moments in my life? When am I acting just to act without thinking about it? My impulse is to check my phone first thing in the morning, but that's probably not what's best for me. My impulse is to think and worry about things I can't control, but that's not what serves me either. Which easy will you choose today? If you've ever retracted or avoided doing what feels right in the moment because of that inherent fear, that nervous feeling in your stomach, if you've held back because you're worried about standing out or being different, that's your airplane aisle decision. And these things matter. They compound. Because if you truly thought about it, you'd know that when you're old and looking back on your life, the great tragedy won't be these little shortcuts or minor inconveniences. It will be having neglected to live authentically, having failed to do what's meaningful, having chosen comfort over courage so many times that you forgot you ever had a choice. Which easy will you choose today? The curtain with holes. I once heard a metaphor that our existence is like standing behind a curtain with tears or holes in it. Reality becomes which holes we decide to look through when we're peering out at the world on the other side. This message is for whoever out there feels like giving up or folding their hand. Whoever's been waiting for things to change but only sees the clock moving relentlessly forward. This is your reminder. The very thing you need is on the other side of that curtain. You just have to choose which hole to look through. Winter whispers what spring will shout. Think about British weather. We all know winters can be long, sometimes unbearably long. Grey skies hanging over Oxford from November through March. Rain that seems to seep into your bones as you cycle down Broad Street. Wind that cuts through every layer you're wearing. But if you can find it in your heart to ride it out, if you can endure with patience and faith, you'll understand that what's in front of you is not a wall, but a door left ajar. A threshold separating this chapter from the next. Winter whispers what spring will shout. Winter has this beautiful way of putting its hand on your shoulder and reminding you that difficulty now means the best of life is coming later. That the cold and darkness are not permanent states, but temporary seasons. And so when you find yourself in the winters of your life, and we all do, remember that they're impermanent. While difficult, while trying and challenging and sometimes seemingly endless, these times are starting blocks. Nothing of value comes to fruition without them. Winter prepares the ground for spring's arrival, and then there's spring, when that belief is finally rewarded. The seeds begin to grow, take root, and emerge from the ground. That first truly warm day in May when you can finally sit outside at a pub garden without a jacket. When the quad lawns turn brilliant green and the cherry blossoms bloom along the high street. When, for the first time, progress evolves from a fairy tale to something tangible. Something you can touch, something you can see with your own eyes. It's reassurance beyond the voice in your head. A sign that you've emerged from the valley you once feared was forever. And then we arrive at summer, the culmination of all that is good. You have arrived. All the waiting, all the suffering, the belief, the hope, the patience, all of it manifesting into life at its absolute best. Days are longer. Worries are lighter. This is the peak, the summit. It's why we dream, why we endure, why we keep going when everything tells us to quit. But remember, that summer, like everything else, slips away with time. It's a call to simultaneously appreciate the present moment while refusing to live under the false pretense that winters can be avoided forever, that life exists without its cycles of change and challenge. Winter whispers what spring will shout, and whether you're currently in winter, spring, summer, or fall, and perhaps that's something only you would know, I ask that you see it for what it is. Another trip around the sun. Another tour through those seasons of life. Not the wave, but how you ride it. Everyone wants to change the world. Everyone wants to change the world. But no one wants to change himself. This was written by Leo Tolstoy in reference to people's proclivity to point outward at the world and project blame, rather than to point inward at themselves and ask, why? What can I do? How can I be better? Which, when you think about it, is basically a shark forfeiting its bite, or a bird giving up its wings. Our personal agency, our ability to choose our response, to shape our own character, to direct our own path, is without question our greatest superpower. Yet from my vantage point, it sometimes feels like we're walking away from that superpower. A tiny step at a time, little by little, day by day, we're allowing that greatness to fade, surrendering our power to circumstances and excuses. But here's the truth. The hero isn't dead, just sleeping. What I'm most proud of in my own journey is chipping away at the monster that is the victim mentality. My default response when things went wrong, for far too long, was to feel sorry for myself. It was easier to be the victim and sulk than it was to keep taking the hits, to keep standing up after being knocked down. But self-pity gets you nothing. Zero. It leaves you resentful, disappointed, envious, wandering down a path that is not your own, living a life that doesn't belong to you. What I learned was that my story needed a hero, and I was the only one who could play that role. The hero isn't dead, just sleeping, and it's time we resurrect that hero. See through the facade of short-term comfort that leads inevitably to long-term emptiness. In a world where attention is currency, it's time we acknowledge that the payment we receive when we play victim buys only despair and stagnation. Sure, we're flawed. That will always be true. We'll make mistakes, fall short, disappoint ourselves and others. But we are also capable of manufacturing greatness. We're capable of capturing hearts and captivating minds. We're capable of far more than we give ourselves credit for. If you could only see within yourself that story yet unwritten, if you could feel the greatness that awaits, the roads yet to be traveled and mountains yet to be climbed, there would be no debate, no hesitation. You would act immediately and decisively. We live in a world that's been shaped entirely by those who found the courage to do the difficult thing. Everything around us, every advancement, every innovation, every improvement, is a product of someone's courageous decision to take the present moment and bend it towards something better. And that means taking hits. It means being criticized and misunderstood. It means that by definition, you are choosing to be uncommon, to stand apart. You're choosing to change things, yourself first, and by default the world around you. In a world of participation trophies and constant affirmation, we've inadvertently disincentivized the very thing that makes life worth living. We've crippled the pursuit that ignites the soul, the push toward the extraordinary, the reach for something beyond the ordinary. The hero isn't dead, just sleeping. Resurrect that hero. Fight those battles that light you up inside. Blaze your trail through the valley of darkness. Take that path unknown to the common person, unseen to those who live comfortably within the confines of what is, rather than reaching for what could be. Resurrect the hero because you need you. Because the world needs you. There's no time to be down or sad or to dwell endlessly on the mistakes of yesterday. There's too much at stake, too much on the line, to pretend that settling was the plan all along. Stand up, step forward. Start now. You already have everything you need. Every once in a while, for a brief moment in time, we need to pause. We need to take a breath and ask ourselves who we are. Not in the literal sense, not examining the reflection staring back in the mirror, but in the deeper context of the road we've already traveled, the distance we've already covered, how far we've actually come. Because it's easy to become consumed with what lies ahead, especially when you can start to feel that finish line approaching, when you can see the top of the mountain through the clouds, when you know everything is about to be on the line, when your greatest test awaits. But here's one of the greatest secrets I've ever been told. One of the most liberating truths I've ever discovered. That test is not about right now. It's not even about the future. It's about the foundation you've already been building all this time. It's about trusting yourself to be you. It's all those times you could have said no, could have quit, could have taken the easy way out, but you didn't. How you, like so many others, could have taken that comfortable road, that well-worn path, but you opted for something greater instead. This obstacle before you, this challenge you're facing, is not where you prove or make or create yourself. It's where you simply verify who you already are, where you cash in on a prize that's been years in the making, where you validate the price you've been paying for as long as you can remember. There's a saying that has carried me through life's darkest moments. Pain is temporary, but quitting is forever. That simple quote has gotten me through some of life's greatest trials and tribulations, through the most challenging times when I didn't think I could go on. Because when we're overwhelmed, when we're drowning in life's chaos, our minds don't naturally scream out, "Hey, you've gotten through this before and you'll get through it again." No, when we feel like we're neck deep in chaos, all we can see is what we're not, what we lack, how we're failing. That's why people quit. They become consumed with the darkness, forgetting that the answer is just a light switch away. They overlook the fact that they already have everything they need. So let this be your reminder. Getting across the finish line doesn't require some miracle. It doesn't require you to do what no one in humanity has ever done before. All it asks is that you believe in yourself, that you hang on when others would let go, that you continue forward when you most want to turn back. The choice is yours. 8 billion souls on this planet, one shared truth, We're all just figuring it out. But you have something more than that now. You have the awareness. You have the knowledge. You have the courage to admit that the hero was always there, waiting inside you. The hero isn't dead, just sleeping. And now it's time to wake up. Winter whispers what spring will shout. And your spring is coming. It's on the horizon, just beyond what you can see right now. But only if you choose it. Only if you decide that today is the day, that this moment, right now, is when everything changes. Which easy will you choose today? Not the wave, but how you ride it. Easy never changed the world. Easy never built anything worth having. Easy never created a life worth living. And you weren't built for easy. You were built for this, for the challenge, for the struggle, for the climb. Stand up, step forward, start now. The hero you've been waiting for is you. It's always been you. And your time is now.